Wow. So the day has arrived. I'm sitting down with my newfound friend, hopefully, this incredible, wonderful artist. I'm sitting down with Nigel Stefani here today. I am going to read out your bio, as I just mentioned, Nigel, because I just think it sums up everything much better than what I would have, managed to put together. So here we go. Nigel Stefani is a contemporary artist with a distinctive style that encompasses the use of layers to create his complex drawings and portraits. Intimate interactions with individuals help to illustrate their specific personal narratives. Imagery is produced from the answers given to him within a conversation or from in-depth research, be it a place, a feeling, or a form of some kind. These make up the strata and composition that embodies a physical representation of a personality. The inside on the open, we could call it. Stefani also applies this technique into objects or his versions of still life. His works have included British actors Ben Whishaw and Sinead Matthews, model Andreja Pejic, and fashion icon Virginia Bates. And he has collectors in the UK, Hong Kong, USA, and Australia. Welcome to the podcast, Nigel.
Yeah.
Absolutely wonderful. So, Nigel, I always like to take people back in time because in order to understand who you are today, the choices you made, why you choose to spend your time creating and also being a living piece of art yourself, we have to understand the beginning. So take us back in time. Where are you from? What kind of family system, belief systems? What kind of pattern, environment did you grow up in?
So I'm from Kent in southeast England, a little sort of town called Whitstable, little seaside town. I grew up here with my family. I have two brothers and a twin sister, so I'm a twin. Yeah, and she's very creative as well. She's an actor. Um, and yeah, I think with drawing especially, it's been the one thing that I've always done. It's been the one consistency in my life. Yes, sort of. I used to sort of get in trouble a lot as a kid and be sent to my room, and I actually used to love it because I could just sit and draw and get into my own world and be very. It calmed me down. I think it gave me a focus because I was a very hyperactive child and very sort of all over the place a little bit. And yeah, it's been the one thing I've grasped hold of and not let go of, I guess. My parents are creative in their own ways, but they were both from the medical field, doctors. So not in the same way as we are, I guess, as kids. But my dad now paints as a retired GP. My mum is incredibly creative with interiors and a garden and things like that. So there's a creative streak in all of us, I think. So maybe that was sort of from a young age. I kind of it just felt safe, if you know what I mean, from a young age to kind of focus on that one thing, and it's kind of not ever gone away. And throughout the years, I've never, I've never gone far away from it. I've sort of my background was I studied fashion design at university and worked in the fashion industry for a few years. But it's sort of my art sort of went by the by while I was in that industry because it wasn't a particularly creative job. It was looking after creatives. So I'm kind of going, right, I need to get back into what I love, essentially.
100%. I'm just going to pause you for a second because everything is so juicy. So we're going to step back a moment and I'm just going to ask you, what's one of the first memories, just as we're sitting here today? It doesn't have to be the first, but one of the first memories where you remember going, whether it's just the fact that right now you're remembering that was the first time you recall drawing, or whether it was the first time where you thought, this is something special. Oh,
Yeah, I remember for a class project when I was very young being asked to draw something, a still life, and I drew an onion, and that was an old onion, so it sprouted. And I remember drawing that, and my teacher actually calling my parents in and saying, "I want you to look at this." And they were like, my teacher said something like, "This is an onion." And I remember thinking, I remember feeling that they were very proud, but also thinking, "Oh, I can draw actually." This isn't just something I like doing, and maybe this is something I'm quite good at. So that's one thing that always stuck. Yeah, that's one thing that stuck in my head is very young. Not just doing it for myself, actually having some validation, I guess.
I love that. And is that, the validation or even the approval or the support of your family, is that something that continued throughout, into teenage years, etc.?
Yeah, I was always encouraged to. I was never discouraged from creating ever. No, I was never pushed. Sort of, my parents were very supportive. They were like, do whatever you feel is your calling, I guess. And I mean, a few times they'd asked if I wanted to go into the medical field and things, but it was never a passion of mine. It was never something I considered. Being creative in whatever way that materialized sort of was always something I felt very passionate about. So yeah, they've always been encouraging and always sort of helped push me in a way, but in a comfortable environment, in a safe environment, to be like, no, just you do you. And I've always been like that, which has been wonderful. Yeah,
I really loved it. And I am really excited because you said you're a twin. So good. I've only ever come across, one other twin, which is a really good friend of mine. He's now one of the principals at the Royal Danish Ballet. But anyway, he's also a twin like yourself. And his twin is a twin sister. And I want to ask, what kind of relationship, like, are you guys super close, or is it, because, I'm just fascinated by twins. So I have to just hear a little bit more about that. Some twins are literally completely synchronized. Some people are close, but, they don't do everything together. Where are you guys at?
Close, we don't do everything together. I think with every relationship, it's swings and troughs, isn't it? Like, I think we were obviously, as kids, we were very close, and then we become teenagers, and I think we clashed a lot because we were probably into different things. And the more you grow, the more you have experience in a relationship that that grows with you, I guess. It sort of, you become enamored with each other and who you've become from, because when you're younger, it's just you're in this bubble, aren't you? In this family bubble of family and sister, and when you go out into the world and do your different things, and it's nice, it's lovely that we retain a really close relationship. Yeah, we don't do everything together, we don't talk every day, but we're, the bond that we have is unique, and we trust each other, like, and that's a big deal. We'll talk to each other about important stuff, and we know that we've always got the other person's best interest at heart. And maybe that's just a family thing, but perhaps that's unique. Some people ask me, like, what's it like being a twin? And I'm like, well, I have no idea what it's like not being one.
No, this makes complete sense. I absolutely love it. And this is also just me being nosy. It's just that thing of, I quite often find, at least that's what happened with my friend Alexander. So he's also, like yourself, close with his twin sister, but it's not like they do everything together. But what is interesting is that both of them have, similar to what it sounds like you and your sister, both, pursued and continue to live in ways that are all about, expressing not just what you see in the outer world, but allowing yourself to dive into who you are and who you are becoming. So even though you came as a two, if she's an actress, she would have spent her life finding out, not just playing other roles, but you have to find that thing within yourself, right? So a lot of inner reflection, a lot of individualization, essentially, within the unity. And that's just something I thought was quite interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of, I always think about the prodigal son story, which is, this is essentially sort of one brother sods off and sees the world and loses everything, and then comes back, and the other brother has stayed loyal. And I think there's definitely something universal in that story. You kind of got to lose yourself to find yourself, haven't you? So it's sort of, we've both gone off into the world and done our own stuff, and that's what I was sort of alluding to earlier. It's kind of nice that within that we've retained a close relationship, and also a close family relationship. We're really tight as a family. So yeah, yeah, it's a nice synergy, I guess, the best way of putting it.
Absolutely amazing. Now, we're going to jump you forward in time. So you went into fashion and there you are all of a sudden working for other people and then going, hey, I need to go back to this drawing thing. I need to go back to why I actually started doing this thing in the first place. Can you tell us a specific point in time if you remember? So a memory, a moment where whether you were too fed up or whether there was something else, because of course everything in life is a gradual process, right? I understand it wasn't just like you were working for someone else and one day you were just scooping out, leaping through the door and like, that's me, here I am, right? But just, like give us a little memory if that works for you.
Yeah, I just remember slowly coming to the realization that I was still young and not doing what I really loved. And it was just a slow build up, right? And I actually, when I left the fashion industry, I left the country and moved across the world and lived in Australia for a year. And I remember going, okay, this year I'm only going to concentrate on my own stuff and that's it. And then let's just crack on. And so yeah, I left that industry and I left my entire environment because I was also sort of mid-20s and I was like, I need to kind of grow up a bit and just start off and fend for myself and see different way of living and just try and live to my own set of rules, I guess, rather than, as you said, working for someone else in that 9 to 5 sort of grind, I guess, and being like, okay, well, let's see how I do over there.
100%. And so where in Australia did you go to?
Lived in Melbourne for a year, yeah.
Oh, this is
Just
exact.
really great city.
Wow. Okay, so this is fun for me personally because Australia is one of the places I haven't been to, but my best friend has just moved there, and Melbourne is a city that I was thinking that's the one I'm drawn to. So you were there for a whole year.
Yeah, it's very creative. It very much suited what I wanted to do, sort of artistically and stuff. It's sort of yeah, it just seemed like it fit very easily. Don't get me wrong, like a year was enough. Like I describe Australia kind of. I've said this to a few people. I describe Australia as kind of like being a beautiful oil painting, and everything in that oil painting is beautiful, and you can visit different parts of the painting, and it's stunning, but you can't get out of the frame.
Oh, fuck. Yeah.
The reality of that is it's so far away from everywhere else. It's
Yeah.
very, very insular. This is just my experience. So it's a perfect life for certain people and not so perfect for others. And it was fantastic for a year, but I was ready to come back to Europe for sure after a year.
100%. But can I
Yeah,
just ask
because
you,
it's
Nigel?
gone.
No, sorry. We're having a bit of a connection issue, I think, with the Wi-Fi. So sometimes if I do this, it's because I can't hear you. But we're back on. So I just want to ask, when you were in Melbourne, tell us about like an ordinary regular day, because I think, this is what's so important for listeners out there to hear. Like, okay, so great. You left the thing that wasn't working. You didn't know what was going to work for you personally, but, like really practically, you arrive in Melbourne. Did you stay at a friend's house? Like, what was your everyday life like?
So I stayed with friends to begin with. I had a couple of friends who lived there, and they kind of helped me, get set up and show me around and things like that. But sort of, it depended on the day, to be honest. I knew that I wanted to do a new set of drawings, and I knew I wanted to have an exhibition. That was it, really. So to begin with, obviously, I had some savings and things, so I had something to fall back on. And I just drew every day, whether it be at home or in a cafe or a library or somewhere else, because at that point I was drawing. Now for the last sort of, say, probably at least 15, 16 years, I draw standing up. I draw against the wall. But at that point I was drawing sitting down so I could move with it, right? So but nowadays it's static. It's in my studio, it's on the wall, it can't go anywhere. It's sort of so. And that was the first time I started thinking about layers. And that layers is such a big part of my work. I mean, my first exhibition I ever had was in Australia, and it was called couche, which is layers in French. And yeah, it's sort of, it's funny, isn't it? Some people sort of have asked me in the past, sort of, how do you get to your style? And the easiest way to describe that is just a lot of mistakes. You can't be scared to create bad art as an artist at some point, because you never learn by getting it right all the time.
100%. And there's also this thing of, you know, why do you create in the first place, right? You've been drawing your whole life. And when something in life didn't feel right, you went back to what did feel right, which was drawing, right? And so it's this thing. And I know obviously you also need to make money from it, et cetera, et cetera. But at the same time, like, life is short. And, you know, if you get too concerned with who's going to buy it or who isn't going to buy it, right? I can really see how that could stop you and block you. But talk to us about the layers. So how did this layer?
So it kind of did, the first ever piece I think I did with layers was, I met this guy, I think he was at a festival, and he was a farmer, and he sort of had different crops that he farmed, and one of the ones he talked really passionate about was mushrooms. And I just remember thinking, this guy is so passionate about these mushrooms, and he just had a very distinctive face, and I kind of asked him, I said, can I take a couple of photographs of you? Because I'd really like to draw you. And the more I talked to him about his work and what he was passionate about, these mushrooms sort of stuck in my head. So I thought, okay, well, how can I incorporate these mushrooms into this drawing? Because it seemed like so much of a part of him, right? Like, it wasn't just, I'm a farmer. It's sort of, he was so passionate about them. So I sort of took some photographs of some mushrooms and sort of laid them into his face, sort of digitally. And I'm quite good at graphic design anyway. Kind of, it was part of my fashion sort of studies and stuff. So I kind of incorporated that and thought, well, actually, this is something this is quite interesting. And that was my first drawing I ever did using layers. And it seemed to just kind of, it kind of ticked a box that I didn't know I needed ticking, if you know what I mean. It was a different type of image making in my mind, rather than just, I'm going to try and make something look like a photograph, or because you're also trying to capture a personality in one image, which is basically impossible. So it kind of made it a little bit more about an existence rather than a moment. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
And that was the first time I thought, okay, I think this layer thing I want to explore. Whether it had legs or not, I have no idea. I never really thought about whether it would be something that would always work. I just go, okay, well, this works now. I want to explore it. And I've never stopped exploring it, I guess.
I love that. And so from your time in Australia, you went back to England, I'm assuming, or?
Back to London.
Thank you. And whereabouts in London? So at this point, you are like, in, I don't know, 26, 27, something like that. So towards the end of your 20s, and where in London do you decide to move to?
I moved to Stockwell in South London. And I lived there for, how long did I live there? About a year and a half. And then I sort of sofa surfed for a bit with friends. And then I ended up in Hackney, where I still live now, sort of 15 years ago. And it was by mistake, to be honest. It was just, I found a place. I wasn't very hell-bent on East London or Hackney in general. I just found a place and never left.
Love it.
Just built a life around here.
So tell us, again, Nigel, a day in your life. Do you draw every day? Do you draw, of course you have commissions and, works that you're working towards finishing, etc. But what is in general, what is your, ever-changing routine like?
Well, the thing is, I'm a stickler for routine. I really like, and I'm not like it. I think I'm not a typical, maybe I'm not a typical artist, I don't know, but like I don't like really late nights. I'm much more of a morning person than a late night person. Like, some people come alive at night, right, and work all night. Like, no way. Like, so I like to get up early-ish, I'm not up at 5, but I don't like laying in bed particularly. So a usual day is gym in the morning, and then straight to the studio. I will be in the studio probably. I'll be in the studio at least average 7 to 9 hours a day. Whether that be drawing the whole time or planning stuff, or everything else that incorporates that sort of life, I guess. But yeah, the studio is where I spend most of my time. I always take Sunday off. Sunday is my do nothing day, no matter what.
And that's when you go to bike shed.
Yes, exactly.
Because you called it church. You were like, bike shed is my church. I remember this.
Exactly that. Yeah, I'm not religious, but yeah, bike shed is a place where I feel most relaxed, most at home, I guess. It's very much and it gets me out of the studio, right? It kind of gets me out of my own environment of doing this all day and chatting to people. And I'm a massive bike fan, so it's a very easy, comfortable place to hang. And yeah, through them, obviously I met you, and here we are.
Absolutely. And now tell me a little bit, well, tell us, listeners out there too. So motorcycles, how, when, where, who?
Yeah, so I got into motorbikes about 14 years ago, and it was purely about I got bored of London transport. It really was, like, I got bored of it. I was just miserable. And also there's freedom in riding bikes, right? Like, you can just get up and go. Traffic doesn't exist because you go around it. It's dangerous, and it's exciting, and it's visceral, and it's an entire lifestyle. It's completely, like, my life is before motorbikes and after motorbikes. Like, it's completely my blood. And I can't imagine ever not wanting to ride bikes. Like, yeah, it's a huge part of my life, and I love tinkering with them and building them. And I mean, when we met at the Bike Shed show, that was the second year I'd been there. The first year was actually I sort of built a bike for that show, and this second year was more, to do with my drawings. But yeah, they kind of coincide, definitely, and they obviously did this year with the Ducati piece. But yeah, bikes. Ask any biker what biking means to them, and it's almost like it's bad for my health not to ride. It's a bit of an oxymoron because it's incredibly dangerous, but it's a mental thing as well as a physical thing. And it's therapy. It's like going to the gym. Going to the gym and riding bikes is sort of
So that this is like church on wheels. Got you. And I think there's also another point we always have to remember, right? Which is, well, okay, yes, of course there's a risk, but there's also a risk to not living while being alive. So, there's that, and there's also the whole, well, who would you be if you didn't do that, and who would you be if you didn't, if you hadn't pursued and gone back to doing what you always love to do, right? So it's always those things. I have a little question, it's a random one. What does change mean to you?
What does change mean to me? It depends on the change, generally speaking, because it's not necessarily a scary thing, but there's comfort in things that you're used to, whether they be negative or positive, right? So it just depends on the change. Like, some change is vital and exciting and necessary. Some change is terrifying and maybe unnecessary or scary or destructive. It's like for me, it's like asking what art means to me.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on what kind of art you're talking about. Like, it depends on what kind of change, right? So that would be my answer. I wouldn't be able to say a definitive, like, this is what it means. It depends on the change.
100%, because context is everything. So without the context, that unique set of context to you, how can you really answer honestly and, in a way that feels true to you? I love that. I just think it's a cool and it's a fun question, even though it doesn't really have a perfect answer because it's not a perfect question. But some people are very specific about changes, right? And as human beings, we, as we all know, we love to attach to what we love. So, and the minute there's a risk that what we love might be taken away, usually, so i.e. a change, even if it could be a change for the better, a change into the unknown, usually what we tend to do is it just feels too much, right? So my lead on from that is, so if there is a change, and it's a change that for you would feel, have the attachment of the loss of something, the loss of someone, something, how do you cope with those kind of changes, those kind of transitions, those kind of moments in life where we have no idea what comes next, but we still have to continue existing?
That's a great question.
Thank you.
With that, slowly, by lifting heavy things and putting them down again, because gym is life, frankly. Uh, uh, yeah, how do I deal with that? Yeah, slowly. I don't want to throw around those sort of cliches, but be kind to yourself and all that sort of stuff. So, because when you're heartbroken or you're sort of dealing with a huge loss, like, frankly, you're not going to be fucking kind with yourself. You're going to drink and smoke and be self-destructive in a way. But I've certainly been all of those things in the past. But I don't know. I guess it's trying to remember that feelings aren't facts, and for me, I feel very deeply. But and a good friend of mine sort of talked to me about this at some point recently. Was like, feelings for you, although very deep, especially if they're sort of, as you say, as you are sort of dealing with something that's difficult, seem to switch quite quickly. It's not like turning a cargo ship. It seems to be able to kind of see the other side. So I guess if I'm in the thick of something that's difficult, I kind of try and remember that doesn't seem to last forever with me. Yeah, and I think maybe also it's sort of about shrinking your horizons, right? If you're sort of overwhelmed and thinking about something that's difficult or seemingly life changing, just shrink your horizons. Like, just take it down to the day. If the day seems too big, take it down to an hour. Like, just make your world smaller.
Oh my God, I love that. This is a really great of putting, essentially get back to the only thing that's actually ever ours, which is the present moment, right? We have here now, and that is it. We are not guaranteed anything else. But I love how you said, like, shrink your perspective, shrink your world, actually make it small, take it down to the day, the hour, the minute, the second, the breath, the heartbeat. That is so nice. That's such a good way of putting it. And I also really like how you said, do it slowly. And, like you said, lift heavy things and put it down. So, okay, I don't lift heavy things, but I'm an ex-ballerina and I teach yoga all the time. I teach Pilates all the time. I love anything physical. And again, I can really relate to that because it's like, so again, that's that thing of get out of your head and get back into your body. And when you're in the body, there really is just this moment.
Yeah, exactly. And I've just thought about it when you said, sort of, when you repeated back, lifting heavy things and putting down again. Like, that's almost what you're doing when you're trying to deal with something difficult anyway. You're trying to lift it and you're trying to hold it there. But it's like, one thing my therapist once told me was like, don't try and, how did she put it? She said something, don't forget your past, just let it go. And so it's sort of, it's not like you can forget it because your past is part of who you are, but just let it be. So it's almost like, you've carried this thing for ages. Now just put it down for a while. That's a similar thing, isn't it? With what I just described, sort of gym. For me, it's lifting weights. It's that aggressive kind of release, I guess. But maybe that's I never thought about it like that, actually. That just came to me. So it is sort of almost trying to sort of put it down. And even if you can only put it down for 40 minutes, put it down for a bit.
Oh my God, I loved it. And it's also, and then that opens up a whole new question, right? Of who would I be if I wasn't carrying this?
Yeah, I think it's, well, I guess I'd change that question, or maybe add to that question as who would I be if I hadn't carried this for so long or had never carried it at all? And who am I now? Now I'm not carrying it.
Right. And also, not carrying doesn't mean to not care.
It's just you're not dragging an anchor anymore.
Exactly. And I love that image.
Lift the anchor for, yeah, like, you know, and everyone's been there. Everyone's been there, sort of trying to trudge forward with everything. The heart is being pulled and held to try and not keep going. Like my big saying I say to myself, I have it tattooed on my body and things, is forever forward, because all we can do.
Oh,
Like,
oh my God. I was just about to ask you. I was just about to ask you if you mainly notice yourself being pulled forward or pulled back. So you literally just answered my question.
question, because I find myself being pulled back a lot, but the forever forward is a mantra that tries to enable me to not give in to that, because I kind of alluded to earlier, like things that are safe and routine, for instance, there's a safety in things you're used to, but if you're only used to pain, there's still safety in that because you're used to it, right? That doesn't mean that it's good for you. So that's alluding to the change question, because some change is fucking necessary, but because you're used to a way of living. It's like if you've ever been depressed, you only realize that you're depressed, how depressed you are when you're not depressed, because you kind of just get on with it, and you're used to living in a way that's perhaps opaque rather than clear. And it's only when it's clear you can realize how foggy everything was, I guess. Does that make sense?
100%. And it's because it's exactly that, like, again, that thing of attachment. As
Yeah.
human beings, we so crave a sense of identity, right? So we're like, ugh. And even if that sense of identity, like you just mentioned, even if it's actually is exactly what is keeping us stuck in a space that you're right. We don't know what we don't know until we know. So if we have never ever been to the other side of the mountain, we do not realize that just on the other side of the mountain is a beautiful ocean. And, you know, we've been living in the desert, making the most of the desert, you know, nothing wrong with the desert. But if we don't dare to climb that mountain.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing as well, isn't it? Because I firmly believe that in a lot of ignorance, fact, bliss. Like there are certain things I just don't need to know about, and I don't want to know about. Like I'm selective with the things that I'm interested in. I would not be very good at general knowledge.
Oh my God, I'm laughing so hard because that is so me. And I am all, and I am, and I'm like, because for me, right, like life is made out of everyday moments. And so whatever I choose to consume, that's my life. And that's never ever going to come back. And so,
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I'm the same, and I think you can apply that to all walks of life. Like it's sort of, we talked about earlier about circles being small. My circle was tiny, and quite fucking right. I, I don't want a big circle. You know, but if you've got a couple of people that you know that you can rely on no matter what, then what more do you want? Like, you know what I mean? So it's sort of, yeah, I'm very selective with the people I spend time with, the things I put in my brain, the things that I'm interested in. Perhaps at times too selective, you know, like I probably could be more outwardly interested, or go to, you know, see things that aren't necessarily something that I would expect to enjoy, or be interested in. I can definitely be more of that, I think. I'd certainly like to travel more. But I think that's probably part of the routine thing. I mean, I'm probably like a lot of artists, I just like making art. And that's what I want to do every day anyway. So it's sort of, yeah, it's it's a double-edged sword, isn't it?
100%. And with that thing where you said, well, I probably could be more, you know, going out or meeting this or doing that. Would you say if you were to, if you, is your default setting more towards a no or more towards a yes? And again, I know I'm not giving you context here, but does that make sense? Like, I'll give you an example. I've definitely had to learn to be a firm, strong no, because I was very much a, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And then I didn't even realize no existed. Make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense. No, I'm the opposite. I would have to force myself to say, I wouldn't have to force myself to say yes, but I'm very comfortable saying no. Very comfortable.
Right. Got
Very,
you.
because I think there's a lot of power in saying no. And again, that's such a huge question, isn't it? Like, it would be way more beneficial for me in certain circumstances to say yes more, which means going out more, and exactly what I said earlier, just sort of seeing more stuff, going to experience more things that potentially could be life affirming and in things like that. But I kind of, there's such a power saying no, and I'm very comfortable in my own skin. I don't really give a shit about what people think, particularly about me. And I mean, it's funny being an artist. I read this quote and I love it. It's like, being an artist, you have to not give a shit about anyone's opinions and equally have to give a shit about everyone's opinions. It's such a, it's such a, I don't care about anyone's opinions. And then someone buys your work and you're like, yes. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
but it's so true, right? Because it's kind of similar to that thing of like, there's nothing more attractive than someone who really likes what they do, what they are, how they spend their time. It's highly attractive because we'll all be like, oh, there's a, you know, as human beings, we're always looking for someone that appears as if they have a deep sense of security within themselves. Because the more you feel secure within you, the less I need to make you to try and make you feel secure. You know, there's something so attractive about it. So I can really get that thing where you're like, I like my own space. I like what I do. You don't need, no one needs to like it. But then at the same time, like you said, but then when someone buys something, it's still like, yay, like little kang dance.
that. Yeah, exactly that. I mean, I use this example, I guess. Like, I did these drawings of my I thought the three most iconic Andy Warhol images. I did my version of them. So there was the Marilyn, the Mick Jagger, and the self-portrait he did. And I did these probably about 10 years ago, just because I felt like I wanted to do them, right? It wasn't for a commission. It was just, I wanted to do these three sets. And a couple of years ago, the original Marilyn sold to someone in Hong Kong, and she bought it because she felt she'd just lost her father, and she felt like this was going to help her grieve the loss of her father, because her father was a big Marilyn Monroe fan. And it just was like, I drew these 10 years ago in my studio for me because I felt like I wanted to do this drawing. And this is now across the world helping someone grieve the loss of the most important person. They're like it's so, when stuff like, it's so humbling when people find not just an interest in what you do, but actually want it as part of their existence. And it helps them grieve a family member. That is just, that's what an honor that is. You know what I mean?
I absolutely loved it. And thank you for sharing that story. But what I really love is that your eyeballs are like rolling around because just like you're sitting there going, how the hell is this even possible? And what's really beautiful is that that wasn't the intention behind it. That you had no way of knowing. There was no hidden agenda. And I think in a world that, you know, since the age of, I don't know, whatever, we are constantly told who we should be, who we shouldn't be, how to make money, how to live life, how to do all this stuff, right? And so much of it is you do this thing because then this other thing will happen. It's so agenda based. It's so strategic. It's so you do this stuff that you might not want to do. You have to say the things. You have to be around these people. Like so much pressure. And then here you are, doing something just for the pure desire, joy, contentment, peace, fulfilling, I don't know,
Yeah.
reason of doing it. And if it happens to have the fact that it happens to help someone else, like to this profound level, is so beautiful. But for me, the most beautiful thing is that that's not why you did it in the first place.
No, it's a need. People are, who ask, why do you draw? But I need, it's kind of, it's not, it's not a hobby. It kind of goes to the thing of like, I never was comfortable calling myself an artist because it wasn't my main gig, right? And I felt like it had to be earned. It was a title to be earned. And I realized, no, it's not. Like that's who I am. No, it's not a job.
It is 100%. Yeah. I really love that. I really love that, Nigel. And it's also because, exactly, I love that because it fulfills your need.
Yeah.
Right. And I also think that, our biggest job as a human being, it's not all these other things externally. I think personally for me, our biggest job is continue to spend time with yourself, get to know yourself. And there's always, talking of layers, we are so multi-layered. There are so many Joses inside of me, right? I've probably met a few of them, right? And so get to know yourself, find out, continue to get curious about yourself and continue to ask yourself, how am I feeling? How can I best support this journey at this moment in time? And take responsibility for that because, you understood, you still understand, you continue to accept that, yes, I have this need. I need to do this thing. I need to express something or whatever it is, but you take responsibility for that. And so you're not out there in the world going, hey, I need you all to do X, Y, Z. No, you know who you are, you know what you need, and you look after that need. And if that need happens, as it so does with you, that it excites and delights and surprises and uplifts and helps other people, well, that's a win-win, right? But that's not how it started out.
Yeah, win-win. Exactly that. Yeah. And it is hugely validating. But I've never produced, unless it's a commission, I've never produced work with the customer in mind. Like I guess I've sort of in the back of my mind thought perhaps that when I've drawn an animal or something, I've been like, oh, okay, well, that might be something that people might like, but it's never consciously been part of the reason I've created it, if you know what I mean. And going back to what you said, like if I could, if people find something that touches them in the work, that is a win-win. Like I made a little live a few months ago when I had sort of some commissions come in all at once, and I just sat and talked at the camera for about 20 minutes, and I was like, I can't really try. I tried to express what it feels like for people to kind of go, well, I like what you make. I want it in my home. I want it to enrich my life. I trust you. Go crazy. Like what? Like you're not buying a jacket. I'm not building a house. I'm not giving you food. This is something that's way beyond that. And you want that? Like that, and I just basically rambled like that for 20 minutes, and I got to a point where I was like, well, maybe this isn't something that can be understood. Maybe it's just something that has to be felt. And to describe a feeling is almost impossible, isn't it? Because words don't really do feelings justice, I don't think. But it's a real honor is the only word I can really kind of use when people kind of subscribe to what you do in a way that they are wanting it as part of their, because homes and things they're so I guess where you live and where you spend your time is selective, right? And it's safe, and to put something new into it is such a big deal. It's just it's mind blowing when people it always is every time.
I want to ask you, Nigel, because I can really, 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 really understand, and also I love. It's really beautiful to witness. Thank you for this window into your your inner world, because the tenderness and the care, and you know, you keep using the word and honor, which is so, so beautiful. And your genuineness about everything that you do, you know, is you know, just absolutely fantastic. But I want to ask you about your process. So again, I'm just going to give an example in my own life. I do intuitive healing for people. And so when people come, sometimes people share about their life, but quite often they don't. And I'm just going to share about the way that I do stuff. So I always say, like, I have no hidden agenda. Like, okay, yes, I want to help you the best that I can, but there is no hidden agenda. I know nothing about most people's life. I have an ability, which I believe everyone do, to just mentally step out of the way. And I kind of just zoom into this person. And then I get information. This is kind of my own process. I can't describe it better than this. But just like you said, I feel it. So I'm not trying to put words to it. I just feel it. And then I see things. And that's kind of what I'm working with when I'm working with my client. But I just wanted to share, that's just my own process. Because this idea, like you said, okay, I got this commission come in from Hong Kong. You may never have met the person in person. You might just know a little bit about them, but to get something like you said, we love what you do. We want you to be part of our home, our sanctuary, our heaven, the space, like you said, where they come to recharge and fill up their one safe place on this planet. And then the words were, go wild. That is a lot. So what do you do? Is there any way you can share it?
Yeah, I mean, it's usually there'll always be there will always be a base idea to begin with, right? Sort of whether it be, you know, we want you to draw a person or you want you to draw a thing, you know, so that sort of base, and it depends on what they want me to work on. So if it's, for instance, if it's a surprise, and if it's of a portrait, for instance. Because if I'm doing a commission of someone and they're in on it, if you know what I mean, then usually it will be in person, and the in person won't be me drawing it in person. I'll basically, you know, I'll interview them and I'll talk to them about themselves, and that will be documented photographically, that conversation, and I will record their answers, and then after that I will pick an image from that interaction as a base for the drawing. So I'll pick an image that I think was the best base for of what I think that person, who I think that person is, as a base. And then the answers that they've given me will form the basis for the composition. So I'll create imagery from their answers. So sometimes it will be physical imagery. So they might be into a certain football team, so I'll include the football team logo in. Or it might be, you know, they talk about the feeling of beauty and they might mention a specific example, and I'll try and find an image or create an image based on that answer and put that in there somewhere. So there's lots of things that, you know, there's no such thing as a 2D person, right? It's sort of, we vibrate with things that we hide and stories we don't tell the world, and I want to try and portray that in a way that's as respectful as possible, and as them as possible. But it's only my interpretation, right? Like, so I did a drawing of, as you read in my bio, I did a drawing of an actor called Ben Whishaw and Sinead, and they're best friends. And it was the only drawing I've ever done to date of two people's relationship. So it was a drawing with both of them in it, trying to portray them as individuals and their relationship in one image, which is basically impossible, right? And it was physically very big. It took a year to draw, and it was a really fascinating experience when they came to view it for the first time, because they both had completely different reactions, and they saw things and completely different things that I saw, which was really, really interesting. So based on that reaction, I actually then made a little short film called To Be Drawn, and it's basically, I interview about 6 people I've worked with, I've done drawings of, about what it's like to be drawn. Because I think when I thought at the time, most art films about the artist, they're never really about the sitters. It must be, I've never been drawn, I've never had a portrait painted or anything. So I just didn't really know what that felt like. So I sort of asked them, and again, the Ben and Sinead's answers to what they thought of the drawings were so different. And for instance, Sinead mentioned that she sort of I seem to have captured something she didn't even know she was carrying at the time. And because it was a year and a half later we were doing the film, she said, I feel, we live so many different lives. I don't feel like I'm that Sinead anymore. And I mean, that's fascinating too, isn't it? Because maybe it's different from a photograph, maybe not, but yeah, it was certainly a challenge. And but yeah, that's sort of, I guess, the process with people. And with an object, I kind of try and do a similar thing. I kind of try and incorporate an environment or its sort of food habits, or I did a hair drawing as a commission, and there was a lot of it's where they live, and so trying to give personality to objects is tricky. But again, it's more that, I guess, is more about me, whereas sort of drawings of people are all about them.
I love the whole process. I think it sounds absolutely fascinating. I want to ask you, especially because I love that you interview them and you record the interviews. Do you have the questions that you ask, are they just organically, they just happen there and then, or is it something that you write down? Do you have like your few questions that you always tend to get in there at some point, or how does that work?
Yeah, exactly that. And then I'm quite good at talking to different types of people, and I like to say I'm quite good at allowing people to be vulnerable. And when people feel safe, they'll open up, right? So I've asked questions that have led to people talking about things that I never intended, or they probably never intended, right? Sort of going really, really personal. And that obviously is, I guess, another type of honor, I suppose, for them to feel like they feel comfortable. But yeah, I would always have a few base questions, but often we'll go off track and go wherever it leads, really, rather than sort of rigidly sticking to what's your favorite color. Because you never know who you're talking to.
Right.
And what they want to, where they want to go. So yeah, every single time it's different, but yeah, I'll have a few questions, but often it will be off.
Right, because it has its own life. Right.
Their own lives, right? And exactly. People should be able to dictate what they want to talk about. Sometimes I'll bring them back and ask something I really want to ask them, but if I don't get all the questions asked because they've talked about other stuff, no problem. Like, if that's what's important to them, that's the shit I need to be drawing about them anyway.
I love that. I'm going to ask you, just because I feel like we've come full circle a little bit, what's pulling you forward at the moment?
Good question. What's pulling me forward? I feel like I have some momentum this year as far as work's concerned, and what's pulling me forward is to try and continue that momentum, and push more than I ever have, really. Push myself out more, in the sense of doing more things like the Bike Shed show, which was awesome. Doing more things like that. Being more, like, I'm shit at hustling. Shit. I also fucking hate it because I'm shit at it. But that means I need to do it more. And this year, I'm starting to become more comfortable with hustling and getting out there and kind of annoying people and kind of going, hello, I exist, and going, da-da. And I've never been comfortable with it, but that's something that's definitely pulling me forward right now, for sure.
I loved it. And I think, I don't know if this is helpful, but I think if you think about it, so there's this woman, right? You painted that amazing Andy Warhol collection, and then 10 years later, this woman calls you up and she's like, this is going to help me go through this grieving process. So if you think about the fact that although you you do what you do because you could not do it, which is always the right reason to do anything in this life. But if you think about it, there are so many more women and men and kids and teenagers like that all around the world, where your art can really help pull them forward just by existing. But if they don't know about you,
yeah, exactly that. Yeah.
Because I really like, personally, it's the same thing for me, right? So, I've written 3 books, I do all these things, and I find it like, I really have to be like, come on, Josie, send that email, remind people that you do what you do. And I'm like, I just want to do what I do. People can come, they cannot come. I'll have a party anyway, we're good. So I can really relate. But for me, I don't know if it's helpful. And also for listeners out there, just remember that, you might be carrying, just by being who you are, just by being who you are, the fact that you exist is inspiring and helping to pull someone forward in their life. But if they don't know that you exist, you could potentially be not helping out. And so I don't know. For me, that kind of helps me, because I really love to, if I know that I've helped inspire just one person on this planet, that's a good day. So, you know what I'm saying? I think that can be helpful, because that's definitely something that and also because I like integrity. So for me, it's always like, is that thing, do you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I'm just saying I get it.
I do. It's also it's almost the opposite of ignorance is not bliss in that. So I said, like sometimes ignorance is bliss. This is an example of it's not. And yeah, integrity, it's integrity and confidence and competence is always inspiring, isn't it? Around anybody, if you're around anyone that exudes that, and doesn't go over into the side of arrogance, I guess, like that's always going to lift people, whether you're into what they're doing or not. Like, I think it's like when you see a really amazing maitre d' at a restaurant. It's so sexy, isn't it? Like, you're sitting there and you barely notice them, but you just know that they're hawks and everything's being done, and you've turned around, everything's been cleared, you haven't even noticed. And like a tailor, like, competence is sexy.
100%. But again, it's also that thing of like, the more you know who you are, the more you are grounded and rooted in who you are, the more attractive it is.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
But anyway.
Grounding's the word, isn't it? Like, you're not grounded, your feet aren't on the floor. And if your feet aren't on the floor, you're darting all over the place. Like, I like the analogy of, like, you can't make a solid decision if you're taking that decision jumping off a mound of sand, because that's, before you jump, you're going to sink into the sand. The sand's going to move. You don't know where you're going to land, because you're not. Jump from concrete, and that's kind of like what grounding is, isn't it? It's like, if you take that decision based on concrete and not sand, it's more likely to be the right decision. And that's kind of, to me, that's kind of what grounded is. It's like, you're surer about where you are standing, rather than, therefore you can, I'm rambling a little bit, but if you take the decision based on a solid foundation, you're more likely to go forward in the right way.
100%. No, but this is so true. And it's that same thing of like, what are you rooting into? What are you moving from? What is your container? So, I know we're talking slightly metaphorically here, but it's kind of the same thing. It's like, I asked you, what is an everyday life like? And you were like, I actually have quite a set routine. Like you said, I don't go to bed crazy late. I'm an early morning person. I go to the gym. Like, I do my things. Like, you love your gym, you love your bikes, you love your art. It's, and it's that thing of like, you also said, like, I'm actually more defaulting towards no. I would like to be a bit more yes in certain areas, right? But there's those are your containers.
Yeah.
Then then energy can flow. If you don't have a container, if you don't create structure, if you don't root and ground into something, the energy is it may be flowing, but it's leaking.
Yeah. It's like, you're not a sea, you're a river.
Right.
Doesn't mean that you can't. Like the great Perry once talked about this. He talked about, I don't know if you've heard him give the Wreath lectures. He's awesome, Grayson Perry. And one of the examples he gave is the Helsinki bus station analogy. and he talks about being an artist, and he's like, the Helsinki bus station, you've got hundreds of buses that go all over the place, and you get on the art world is kind of, your art career is kind of like getting on one bus and getting to the next stop and getting off that stop, and that's the equivalent of going and showing your work to people, and they're going, oh, it reminds me a little bit of Martin Parr though, or something, and you go, fuck's sake, and you get back on the bus and go back to the bus station, and then you get on a different bus. Because the trick is, stay on the fucking bus.
100%.
Going to change direction, but just don't get off.
Oh my God, just be the mountain.
Yeah, just keep forward, right? Forever forward. Doesn't mean, I don't mean that recklessly, but the only thing you can do about the past is learn from it. There's nothing else you can do about it. Zero. So don't live in it. You can't change it. Just that way.
100%. And leading up to, I have only one question I always ask people, but it's actually the question why I created this podcast in the first place. So about a year and a half ago, I sat down and I was like, there's not really lots going on. It was early January. And normally when I feel like that personally, stuck, bored, I don't know if we can call it depressed, but I wasn't in a good state. And I was thinking, normally when I have all this stuff in here and I need to get it out, I will write, I will teach more classes, I will take people on retreat, I will do something. But it was January and no one else was around. And I was like, well, me writing another book is not really going to be helpful right now. And then it came, I was like, I'm going to ask people about their lives, because, we will hear what we hear when we are willing and ready to hear it. But we need to hear it from a person that we personally feel is relatable to us, to our story. And so hence why you and I are now sitting down today, and the time has arrived where I ask the question that I always ask, which is, Nigel, when you look back over your life with everything you said yes to and everything you said no to, if you had just one sole message for humanity, nevertheless, what would it be?
What would it be? What would it be? Give way less of a shit of other opinions. Because why would you give strangers the power to affect your life? Fuck them. Like strangers. It's like, if you're into something, end of discussion. So give less of a shit about other people's opinions, because there's only one you. You do you. Fuck everybody else.
Oh my God, I love it. Exactly like you said, why would you give the power to decide on your life to someone who doesn't know you, a stranger who knows you better than you?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you're gonna give power to other people, give it to people that love and know you. At least sort of, at least trust is earned, right? Why would you give the power of your life or your mood or your way of living to people that don't know you? If you need advice, or you want to allow other people's opinions into your life, allow the people that know you the best.
I honestly, Nigel, I love that advice so much. And also because I always say, like, who are you when your eyes are closed and no one else is watching, right? Like, if you do not decide to make it a habit to listen to that aspects of you, all aspects of you, and try to the best of your ability to make peace, maybe even embrace those aspects of you that exist when no one else is around. If you don't dare to do that, there's no way, you have zero chance of even attempting to create an everyday life that feels like it's worth living for. I know it's getting quite deep at a late point into the day, but
I don't do small talk. This is well up my alley. I love this sort of stuff. And you're right. Like, if you're not, and it's not about, it's kind of a cliche, wasn't it? It was like, live your truth and all this sort of stuff. But cliches are cliches because they're true. They might be cheesy, but they're true. And the truth in that is sort of, and again, I like this quote. I love these little quotes that pop up in my head time to time. It's like, you want an adventure in life, start telling the truth.
Mm. Okay. So then I'm gonna ask you this. We're gonna go a little deeper now, Nigel, because I love this. Oh, this is so good. I spent the whole of yesterday. I was on the phone to my mom, and I was like, "Why does everyone lie? We lie so much as human beings." But what I want to ask is because layers, right? As human beings, we're so layered, and it's this thing of we might be honest and truthful about an aspect of ourselves, and then there are other avenues where,
Yeah.
telling the truth is hard. And I'm not talking about, the practicalities of being a human being, but I'm talking about relationships. So in relationships, how can we relate as truthfully? And this is not just how can one, I'm asking you. So is there a specific area of your life where you're like, whoa, I'm really trying my best to still be honest in this aspect or in this relationship? And of course, you don't have to give us all the details, but does that make sense? That honesty of obviously not, there's being honest and actually hurting someone because you're just fully expressive all the time. And then there's still, because again, truth is also who am I sharing my life with? Who am I spending my time with? And like you said, your circle is really small. You're like, and as it should be, because you are truthfully, I'm assuming, choosing those people in your life. But it's such a difficult thing, I think, for most of us as human beings, that thing of how can we really show up truthfully in our relationships?
I think there's two things to say about that. I think there's ways of communicating truth, isn't there?
Mm-hmm.
So, as if you're expressing yourself to someone you know very well and you love and you care about and they care about you, there's ways of communicating to them that won't be the same as the ways you communicate to someone else. So it's sort of, that's the experience, isn't it? Like, you can still be truthful without being blunt or being hurtful.
Mm.
So I think that's an individual case basis, I guess. And the second thing is, there's nothing like being in a relationship to hold a mirror up to you to go, do you like who's looking back? Because when you're just on your own or single or not surrounded by friends often and things like that, you don't have a reflection. It's very different. It's very difficult, I find, to be self-reflective unless you have someone you care about reflecting that back.
100%. And we heal in relationships. Like this is,
Couldn't agree more. It's this whole thing of like, you have to be healed to be in a relationship. No. You become healed in the right one. Yeah, I agree totally. Yeah, totally. It's not about your own and doing all the work and becoming this perfect potential partner for someone. It's not about that at all.
100%. And what's this fucked up idea is that then we are the perfect thing. Like, the word perfect comes from Latin and it actually meant whole, which means we are already whole. It doesn't mean that we're not changing and moving and all of that. But this whole, like you said, this whole thing of, because there is this underlying, at least in society, there's always this like, well, you do your healing, you do this thing and then this thing. And it's like, no.
And also you don't, again, like the whole reflecting your behavior back, you don't necessarily realize how healed or unhealed you are until you're having that relationship with somebody. So and also a lot of the time, being in the right relationship is exactly what you need to heal or to move forward, or because you are, with the right person, you feel safe. And when you feel safe, again, that's the decision making thing, right? You're not making decisions based on sand. You feel safe. You're on solid ground. You're on concrete. And so yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that doesn't detract from the fact that it's important to do the work, right, on your own. I think that's the crux of it. Like, I think more people, generally speaking, need to be okay on their fucking own. A lot of people use people as a crutch, and it's like, just do your shit, man. Like, don't use people to be distracted. Just find what you're interested in, crack on. Like, be okay on your own. And also that takes the pressure from potential relationships away immediately, doesn't it? Because you're choosing to have someone. It's like you're not filling a void by hanging out with somebody. You're adding to something that's full already.
100%.
Work, then it's still full.
Exactly. And then and I mean, I think we're also cutting down to the thing which is the very human experience of, it's never one or the other, it's both.
Yeah, exactly. Like the Spice Girls were very wrong when they said two become one. No, 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 no. No, they do not.
Exactly.
They do not. Two are still two. You're just hanging out and
And creating 11.
two do not become one. Perhaps two plus two equals one in that sense, but no, no. So yeah, it's it's yeah it it's as important to do your own shit on your own, but sometimes you've got to be with the right person to to grow. Yeah, it's like, yeah, to grow. It's sort of, isn't there I don't know if this is complete bollocks or not, but isn't there a thing that like flowers in meadows grow more than if they're on their own or something like that? Like if they're in, like if you plant one flower and then you plant six next to each other, all six are going to grow better than them. I think that might, I've heard that somewhere. There might be some sort of Instagram quote that isn't real, but
I mean, I haven't heard exactly that, but what I do, if even if we just simplify, I think we thrive and we thrive, we grow, we expand in community. And
yeah,
like I think there's, because I'm also like thinking about an African quote and I can't quite remember it, but it's something about if you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go longer, go together, right? So it's kind of that same thing.
yeah, yeah, and that's true. That's true. And yeah, again, it's like I'm so glad that I'm this age at this time in my life
How, and can I ask, what age are you? I have no idea.
too. 42.
Oh, sorry. Okay, got you. Okay, so you're almost my right. We're similar age. I'm 40. Okay, amazing.
Yeah,
Right? 40 is nice, right? Do you feel the same?
I so much prefer being in my 40s. So much prefer it.
You know what? I think I was born to be in my 40s. I feel like all the other all the other decades because I didn't want to go out. There were so many things I didn't want to do. I just wanted to work because again, what I do is what I do whether I get paid for it or not. It's what I love to do. And so, yeah, anyway, over to you. I'm interviewing you. Talk to us, Nigel.
Yeah, I love being in my 40s. It feels a little bit more proper. It's sort of, you've got to like, if you haven't figured out who you are to an extent in your 40s, then you've got some work to do. Like, and it just, I feel like I'm experienced now,
Hmm.
a way that everyone in their 20s thinks they are, but they're not. And that's a really nice place to be. And it's quite a comforting place to be because I've, you know, been in the trenches and I've learned from it and I've grown from it. So it's sort of, yeah, and there's a significance to being 40. I don't really know what it is, and I don't give a shit about birthdays. I couldn't care less how old someone is. I genuinely don't care. If you're interesting and you have something to say, then let's have a chat. But there's something significant. There has been something significant about being in my 40s. It just seems a little bit more. Uh, it seems a little bit calmer,
Hmm.
I think, and perhaps that's the thing, isn't it? The older you get, the less of a shit you give, and the calmer you become, and the more focused you become. And maybe that's all. Maybe that is a generalization that's real. Perhaps it is, but it certainly rings true for me.
Absolutely love this. Nigel, this has been amazing. I am aware of time, and so as the time is all we have, I think we are let's close this one down for today. But it's been an absolute joy. I could talk to you all day. Thank you so much. Your advice, your experiences, I feel so enriched. So thank you so much, Nigel. Obviously, I'm going to put in the show notes where people can find you, etc. But as you are, as I know what is pulling you forward is also going out a little more. So why don't you tell us, listeners, where they can find you?
So physically, at the moment, I'm for the next few months, I'm going to be in my studio because I have a lot of work to do. I've got a lot of commissions to do. I plan to potentially be a couple of places in the next probably 4 to 5 months. They are not confirmed, so I'm not going to say it yet, but they are in the runnings. So online, quite frankly, at the moment is the best place to find me. And that will be my website, which is nigelstefani.com, and on Instagram, which again is #NigelStefani. But I certainly, as I said before, I certainly want to be more out and about this year for sure. Because I wouldn't have met you if I hadn't have done that, right? And as you said, this has been such a wonderful conversation, and you're seemingly, from the small amount of time we've chatted, you're obviously very good at what you do, and I wouldn't have had this wonderful experience if I hadn't have done that myself, right? So I want to say thank you for inviting me. Thank you for talking with me too, and forever forward. Let's do that, shall we?
Forever forward. I have one little side note. I know we're like, let's say goodbye, but then actually, one last thing, which I forgot to ask you, because I remember when I did meet you at the exhibition, I asked you about your Italian last name, but then I forgot to ask you now.
Yeah.
Who is it? Grandfather, who is it?
Grandfather. So I've only got a little bit of Italian in me. So it's my father's grandfather was from, and he came over and then obviously had my grandfather and then had my dad and then my dad and me. So I'm like an eighth or something. But I love my name is a really interesting thing. Sort of my surname saves my first name from being the most English, boring name in the world, right? So it's sort of like when a lot of people find out my name's Nigel, they're like, really? You don't look like a Nigel. I have a financial advisor who couldn't look more like a Nigel. Never gone outside. He kind of looks like he lives on a computer screen. He's kind of quite Nigel. So I embrace both my names equally because they're very different, I think.
Okay, I love this. And I'm going to give you a quick thing about me. So my surname is McGrail. The McGrail part is Scottish. But I'm only quarter Scottish. And yet I hold on for dear life. I have only ever met my grandfather, sorry, my mom's dad, once. He ended up moving to Australia, and I only ever met him once when I was 3 years old, but I love this Scottish heritage thing. I just think anything you can where you feel a connection to a greater thing in the world, why not? Love it.
Where else are you from? Where else are you from?
Denmark, Copenhagen.
Hey, I wasn't going to say that, like, so your accents, would you say your accent is Danish? It's not. No, I could I thought maybe you had a bit of a slight German twang in there. Like you have a little bit of, I heard a little bit of American in there slightly. Like it feels like a world accent.
Oh, I love this. I will take that, Nigel. There is a great big compliment. What is really hilarious about me is that my accent, just as everything else in life is changing, my accent is forever changing. And I've been in London for 24 years, and honestly, if you go back in time, listen to my YouTube like 10 years ago, my accent is very different. So it's always changing. And, and at times I'll meet someone, they're like, oh, I can still hear the Danish in you. And I'm like, yes, I'm trying to still keep like a little Danish in there as well. So it is forever changing. So I'm happy that you couldn't quite work it out. I hope it wasn't too distracting.
Not in the slightest. No, not at all. I'm quite good at sort of figuring out accents. I thought South African was there a little bit as well. Like there was a little bit of South African, and so it was fascinating. So I wouldn't have picked Danish. I mean, looking at you, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, you look quite Scandinavian, but no, Danish. I wouldn't have gone to Danish, but. Sure.
Well, it's in there. Well, Nigel, stay on the line for just 1 second. And dear listeners out there, thank you so much for staying with us. And do go out and check out Nigel Stefani. Absolute incredible person and wonderful art. Thank you so much.